Most hawks like flying solo, except for the Harris's hawk. These desert raptors love being part of a crowd, especially when they move in for the kill.
What's up? It's your boy Daquan. Back in here again after a nice little hiatus. We're back in here. And today I have none other than the fast FLAK, the man that will have to get bionic arms just like FLAK, Rator. How you feeling today, my man?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
So we were messing around and we have a it was a meme, but now it has evolved into the dream. This is the grenade FLAK build that I like pack FLAK because we have a whole pack of units flying around with us. But it is a crazy build. I want to do a shout out to David. He went ahead and made a mention of it, about a month ago, and yeah, we're just now getting back around to it. But the main synergy that we are utilizing for the grenade, we'll go ahead and talk about in a little bit. That's what we're going to be using 95% of the time. And the 5% of the time, we're going to be utilizing these other weapons that we have right here. So, Customer, you guys are familiar with this, of course. This is great for the Woden fight if you just want to get rid of those shields. The main concern for this build, since it is a mid to long range style build, is the double shielding portion of Woden. Since we are not able to throw Hunter Seekers through there, we either have to run in there and cut the man up with a Cussman, or we can blow him up from the outside using a nuke him. Both are fantastic options. Even if you don't have them anointed at a certain point in time, you can still just roll through the scaled down Maliwan Takedown. And then, of course, Ion Cannon is a good security net and nice insurance policy for if you do get down. Most of the time, you're going to have out a bunch of grenades and be able to get picked back up just utilizing those grenades inside of our certain combination. And there are going to be small instances where that might not work, and Ion Cannon is just good. So Ion Cannon, there's a bunch of other guns you can use, such as Maggie, such as another Customer, such as another Unforgiven. But we'll talk about all that in a little bit. We'll have a options panel pop up to give you a little bit more choices. So now we're going to do our deep dive into what we're going to be using 95% of the time. It might be 98, might be a little bit more, but we have our main synergy between the Unforgiven and it's supposed to pop and the Hunter Seeker. It took a little bit of delay.
UI bugs are definitely fixed.
Yeah. But yeah, the main combination between our Unforgiven and the Hunter Seeker. You want to break down the Hunter Seeker for us?
For FLAK, grenades became just utility and nothing really more than that. And this comes from the fact that some grenades can crit, and usually everyone was just rocking the hacks or the maddening trackers, but those grenades can only proc head count. What differs then from the Hunter Seeker is that the Hunter Seeker can proc both head count, Megavore, and leave no trace, because the Hunter Seeker, the little shots it makes while it's flying count as gun damage, even though it doesn't get increased by gun damage.
So like Retort just mentioned, the Hunter Seeker is able to naturally crit as well as proc Megavore, and when you are hitting a lot of crits, there's really not anything better than utilizing a Unforgiven. So the combination of the two is going to allow the 432% critical hit damage, or whatever is on your card, to apply to your grenades. That's going to bump up these Hunter Seekers from utility to destroy everything inside the vicinity. It's very, very, very good. But finding like the different things that actually worked in terms of anoints, in terms of the skills, in terms of the substats, was something that took a couple of days because I was throwing grenades for a while. Some of the standout anoints are going to be Rakk Attack. For those that are unfamiliar, the 100% on the Rakk Attack anoint is actually better than the 100% ASC inside of most situations, due to the 100% from the Rakk Attack actually comes later in the math, which just means that more things are getting that 100% bonus. This works out very, very, very well. So Rakk Attack is a standout. Lifesteal also works, and each one of your 100 seekers are going to be healing you, which is going to be fantastic, especially if you just want to AFK in the last phase of the Woden fight. I ended up doing a couple of those runs like that and just chilling out, and it is a wild meme. So Lifesteal, Rakk Attack, Anoint. Things that do not work are the 100% ASC for the weapon. That does not apply to the Hunter Seeker. The one thing that I did end up finding out was that the additional damage due to the 2 next mags, such as like the corrosive damage or the shock damage or the incendiary damage, those actually do apply to the Hunter Seekers. So that's something very weird. I don't know why it works, but it does work. Shout out to Randy. And that extra damage is going to help us out inside of some spots. It's better for those individuals that just find a random good Unforgiven or a random decent Unforgiven. It just so happens to have one of these next 2 mags anoints on it. And then utilizing that, you'll be able to make like a nice little budget version of this build, and you'll be able to just clear through 95% of the stuff very, very, very easily. Only thing that we did run into issues with was the double shield phase of Woden, where you actually had to play the game a little bit. So I'm going to show you guys the different budget stuff that we have on right now. This is even worse than budget because nobody is really going to rock a shock damage Unforgiven inside of a place where enemies have a lot of flesh or have a lot of armor. It doesn't make sense to do this. I just did this for the sake of showing how strong the base synergy of the build is, so that way you guys can get this thing rolling if you aren't on PC and aren't able to grab the save. So Trick Unforgiven, 432 critical hit damage is good, but the anoint on it in terms of the element matching isn't that great at all. Big Boom Blaster has nothing on it, and we ran this setup all the way from gate past the bridge. This is the same bridge, that way you guys can see. It's it's the end of the bridge for the clips. So yeah, 50% shock anoint, Big Boom Blaster with nothing on it. This is a cloning Hunter Seeker that's kinetic. Kinetic is not good for this particular situation because we're not getting the benefit on our, well, from our pet, which is the elemental damage bonus from the ant. And then the Rakk Pack, although the skills are pretty good, the substats don't do anything for us at all in terms of DPS. And we're rocking a banjo. So the banjo in itself is a meme for the sake of showing like base strength of this build, or something that you should be able to put together relatively easy. So I did a couple of these runs with this like kind of budget setup. Works well to get through everything. It's not really super duper fast because you can change just about everything inside of, actually you can change everything. You can change everything inside of this setup, but it was still a okay pace, oddly enough. Didn't feel bad. Probably because you're just pressing 2 buttons. But yeah, as long as you change things with the tips that are inside the video, just 1 upgrade a piece for these different things, you'll see big jumps in damage and be able to clear through much, much faster. So we'll hop right back into the video. So you have a lot of different options for anoints, and you'll be inside of a strong spot because the base synergy is so strong. But, you know, of course, we like to amp up the damage even more, so we went ahead and looked at the substats for the artifact and the class mod, and we did a whole lot of testing.
We tested literally everything.
Yeah, everything
like,
got tested.
possible, including fire rate, mag size increases, reload
Reload
speed. For some
speed.
reason, we tested all of it. and it's better to just say what worked than what didn't.
So in terms of the damage-oriented substats, we really didn't see too many that worked out. plus 18% weapon critical damage was pretty nice. And the main one that you actually want to look for in terms of offensive power is going to be the manufacturer weapon critical damage. So due to us having a Jacobs out a majority of the time, that plus 45% weapon critical damage for Jacobs actually does apply to your Hunter Seekers. So if you have something like a Atlas out, the Atlas critical damage will end up applying to your Hunter Seekers. It's just based off of what weapon that you're utilizing at the time. And that gives us a nice benefit.
So those are the things that actually increase it, and the Jacob's crit is increase it by a considerable amount because it multiplies the Unforgiven's crit boost. So it is actual insanity.
In terms of class mods, you have two really good options. So Rakk Pack works out phenomenally. One, because you have Pack Tactics, which is going to allow you to get not only HP, but generic damage. That generic damage is going to help out your Hunter Seekers. In that, you also have your Rakk Splitting, which is going to hit more targets, which is going to work well with your Rakk Anoint, so that way your Hunter Seekers can blow up more targets. Also, with more Rakks being thrown out, you're going to get back more HP. Inside of this particular setup, we're getting back 84% of our HP per throw, which is super duper good. Only things that you really want to find for this are going to be Pack Tactics, hopefully at a higher number, and that 45% Jacob's weapon critical hit damage. And then for the Bounty Hunter, it works out very, very well in those situations where you find a boss that doesn't have any ads. And when you throw on the Bounty Hunter and you throw out your Hunter Seekers, you're going to get those Hunter kill skills procced because the Hunter Seeker is gun damage, like we mentioned earlier. And that's going to allow you to do a whole lot of work to those single target situations, such as if you're fighting like a Grave Ward, if you're fighting like Trant, Katagawa Ball, all that good stuff. So it's nice for farming bosses with, once again, same situation with the substats. We have a couple really good options in terms of artifacts. We're not really locked into anything that crazy. What you want to go ahead and do is have a nice combination of the two in terms of your Hunter Seeker element and your artifact, or at least have something that complements each other. So inside of this variation, we have our Flesh Melter as well as our Corrosive Mitosis Hunter Seekers. That's going to allow us to do a whole lot of damage. And 50 Rush is cool. It's not necessarily needed. It is nice little added damage. Auto Idol was something that we typically use in a whole lot of different setups to keep us sustained, but since we have so much sustain inside the build already, we really didn't need it, especially for this particular run. Auto Idol would be okay. Of course, you can go back to the last thing. Auto Idol Icebreaker is a fantastic choice, and utilizing Icebreaker, of course, you would go with a CRYO Mitosis Hunter Seeker.
Like, you can rock anything that you feel comfortable with, anything you have with good rolls, just about anything works here. But if you're gonna go for the god rolls, for the extra spicy stuff, which is already ridiculous in this build, you can opt for either the Flesh Melter or the Icebreaker. For the Flesh Melter, it's important to note that you should use all corrosive with it, including your ASE stuff, because Flesh Melter stacks can get stolen by a different element if you're not killing something with corrosive damage. So that actually makes it kind of wonky to stack it. So if you're gonna use Flesh Melter, you have to go full corrosive. Otherwise, you're probably better off using Icebreaker and switching up your shield elements from the anointment, so they can boost the weakness of cryo. But for corrosive, you'll be doing so much damage from just killing stuff that the weaknesses that corrosive damage has won't really matter much.
And then in terms of substats, corrosive damage to increase the corrosive, cryo to increase the cryo, those types of situations work out really, really well. Action skill cooldown rate is pretty decent as well inside of this for substats. And then, of course, it goes back to getting some type of sustainability. So health regeneration is cool. For our shield, we have the Big Boom Blaster. Big Boom Blaster is really good inside the situation because it's going to drop the boosters. This is going to give us sustain, as well as allow us to get more grenades. Having more grenades on top of having the ability to regenerate grenades using Rakk Attack. It's going to let us keep spam grenades and then rack, spam grenades and then rack. So that way it keeps our DPS up and it allows us to have more drones or hawks, if you will, inside the build, flying out at the same time, which is just going to like melt everything on the field. Inside of certain situations, such as the double shield for Walden, we already talked about a nice solution to that, just playing outside with the Nukem. Feel free to like throw in a stopgap or something that's going to allow you to get a little bit more survivability inside of that specific area. And then if you need to, you can throw back on the big boom blaster afterwards and you'll be good to go. Rator and I both completed the Maliwan Takedown multiple times without switching up a shield, without like having any type of invulnerability frames or anything. But it is a good option, and it's like a nice little tech that you can utilize to make things a little bit easier for you. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the green tree. Now, yes, the Hunter Seekers do stack Fear's attack. Yes, they are considered gun damage, but they do not scale off of gun damage. So this whole green tree, where a lot of the stuff is gun damage related, doesn't really help us out too much, unfortunately. So we went ahead and skipped into the blue tree, which ironically starts off with gun damage. Now this is going to help out the other 3 pieces of gear that we barely really use, but helps us move down the tree. Main damage sources for this that are going to boost up the Hunter Seeker in terms of the blue tree are going to be Frenzy. Make sure this is accompanied by 1 point of heat bite, so that way that reflection can stack up your Frenzy for you. Then the Barbaric Yap in combination with the Sputtering Scorcher is going to give you a whole lot of elemental damage as well as health regeneration. And then Pack Tactics is a nice way to add a bit more bulk and a good amount of more damage. And then Who Rescued Who is a cool little situation for sustain for you and your pet. And that is it for the blue tree. So now we're going to hop into the red tree. Now you might already see something that might seem like a meme, but we're able to take full advantage of this because our Hunter Seekers, we're going to be throwing them out at about mid to long range, and we're going to be pressing 2 buttons and moving it around the map. And inside of that, our Hunter Seekers are going to be blowing up a whole bunch of enemies, getting the critical hit damage increase, and it works out very well. Very, very well for this setup. There are a few setups that can capitalize on this completely. The only issue with this particular skill is the fact that we were supposed to have like a little radius or something telling us where we had to stand in order to take full advantage of it. But as you can probably already tell, we didn't get one of those. But if you're just spamming grenades the whole time, it really doesn't matter. Just grenade and move. Alright, so back to the rest of the tree. The rest of the tree is just focusing on maxing out damage, like I mentioned earlier. Everything is pretty self-explanatory for the skills that I'm about to highlight. The gun damage portion of this helps out our other guns, and then critical hit damage is the only thing that we're benefiting from in terms of our Hunter Seekers. Galactic Shadow for the crits, and then Megavore just ties in with everything like we mentioned earlier. The Hunter Seekers are going to crit even more. And then Big Game just boosts up all of our hunt skills, which works out very, very well. Our hunter skills, if you will. So of course we have head count maxed out, so that way we get that cooldown, so that way we can spam more racks, which means more grenades, which means more things on the screen get blown up faster. And the thing that we don't have any points into right now is Leave No Trace. Since this is a grenade-oriented build, which is a funny meme in saying that in itself, this is a grenade build. We don't really need Leave No Trace. If you feel like you really want to run a different gun that can capitalize on the Leave No Trace interaction with like the Hunter Seekers, feel free to take some points out of Ambush Predator, and it can work out well for like launchers and some other stuff. Cool thing about Two Fang when I messed around with it is that I have some really, really inconclusive data. That's awesome. So at the beginning of trying out the Hunter Seeker and Two Fang, it seemed like I was getting a Two Fang proc. I was getting about two Fang procs every 40 grenades. I know that's probably not the best ratio. And when I tried it with just a base Hunter Seeker and 5 points to the Two Fang, it didn't seem like I was getting it at all. Mitosis, I believe I got it like 2 times on crit though. It seemed like it was only related to the crit aspect of it. And since Two Fang is like predetermined in its roles, and the Hunter Seekers kind of like miss targets from time to time with their shots, it wouldn't have been worth it anyway, even if it does end up working. For our skill augments, we have Falconer's Feast as well as Flock and Load. This is going to allow us to get a whole lot of sustain. Works out super well with the Rack Pack class mod. So we are throwing out 4 initial racks, and then those break up so that way we get a total of 12 racks. And then each one of those bringing back 7%, which is going to give us 84% of our HP back, which is a fantastic amount of healing. And since we're like mid to farther range, we're really not going to eat that much damage or eat enough damage to be in a situation where we have to panic. So it is very, very, very nice. Rator, you want to add anything to the mix?
You can swap from the Spider Ant to the base Baby Jabber, the small Jabber. it won't commit suicide on Wotan unless Wotan jumps on top of it, but then there's nothing you can do. But if it's not that, it'll stay back and actually not die, which is quite impressive considering every other pet just likes to commit suicide on Wotan.
Yeah, the longer the pet stays alive means we'll be able to get some frenzy stacks, add some additional damage to the mix.
Bonus points for it looking pretty cute, so it's benefits all around. Of course, if you want to stay with the ant, it would just die, and then it doesn't make too much difference. It'll just destroy everything either way, but it's something you can do.
There's a few things just to add in. We messed around with the eruption in order to increase the damage of the Hunter Seekers. This seemed a little bit more like a hindrance because we aren't throwing out Hunter Seekers in the times that this is, doing this whole little break animation. So eruption didn't really seem that great, but we messed around with the execute. Messed around with the execute a little bit. It was okay. It works out much better than the eruption for this particular setup, but it kind of eats up a slot, and we don't need it. We don't need more damage. And so this is it. That's it for the build. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions about anything, go ahead and direct those at Rhetor. It's like, no. If you guys have any questions about anything, go ahead and let me know.
I'm on Discord. You can message me whenever. You have any questions?
Yeah, if you have any questions about anything, go ahead and let me know in the comments below, or message my man Rhetor in Discord. He'll be inside the comment section too most of the time. And we are out of here.